Hi guys, it's William Morris here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new library from Heavyocity, which is the next installment of the Vocalise series, Vocalise 3. So the library is made for both the full and player versions of Kontakt 6.7.1 or above, and it will take up around 7 gigabytes of your hard drive space. It's currently on intro pricing at $99, and that will move to a full price of $119. So the library utilizes Heavyocity's Gravity engine, but this library is still standalone, and it doesn't need you to own the Gravity library. So if we jump into the instruments folder here, you can see everything's divided into these 5 folders. We have melodic phrases, some intervals, rhythmic pedals, scapes and drones, and vowels. And within each of these folders is many more folders and patches. So there's a ton to get through. So let's jump right in, and I'm going to start off in the melodic phrases. So these have basically been divided into different keys. You can see we've got A major, another A major, A minor, etc. And obviously this isn't all the keys that you could have, but I believe the idea is just to get you to as close to the key you want to be in as possible, and then you can use these purple key switches to transpose to the key that you'd like to be in. And as the name suggests, everything in here is a sort of melodic looped phrase. The bottom octave here on the keyboard is a drone to accompany those phrases, so you get kind of something nice just to sit under these. So I'll give you an example of that. So as you can hear, really beautiful stuff. I have the original Vocalise library, and that one's kind of a bit more epic, definitely bigger. And this one, I'd say overall, is a bit more ethereal and kind of focused on the softer side, which is really nice because there's probably a lot more epic choir libraries than there are sort of softer vocal libraries, and this is definitely one of them, so it's nice to hear. So that was some of the melodic phrases in A major. Let's just jump down and try one maybe in C minor using the harmonic scale. And let's just use the transpose to hear what that sounds like. So that's original. This is transposed. So we've shifted quite far up there. And to me, it does start to degrade a little bit. You can hear a tiny bit of artifact in there, so just be aware of that when you're kind of making some of these bigger jumps. And that also goes for the tempo. These are all tempo synced, but obviously there are limits to that. If you wanted to go from, say, 110 to 210 or something, you know, very big like that, then you're gonna definitely hear some more of these artifacts. It would actually be really nice if they'd included the original BPMs that the recordings were done at, just to give you an idea before you start to mangle how far you might be able to push it. I would guess that because of the material, they're probably recorded maybe at a reasonably slow tempo. I'm going to keep a lot of these demos around kind of the 110 mark, as that just feels sort of fairly natural for these type of tracks. Okay, so that was a little bit of C minor harmonic. Let's try the D sharp minor one, and I'll do some drones with these as well. So that's two together, and because of the tempo syncing, they actually work really nicely, and they're obviously locked to the same key as well. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the melodic phrase category. Everything I would say is kind of in a pretty similar vein, but really nice to have a lot of that variation, and they do sound lovely. All right, so let's move on. And the next folder is our intervals one. And these patches have been divided by the singer. So we have Carla and Kristen, and also by the root note. Because what the intervals folder is a root note that then moves a particular interval. So if I just load up, say this one in C with Carla. So you'll get a root note and an interval together, and we can just keep going up or down with those as required. So. And for me, these are super useful because they bridge that gap between a loop and a playable thing. So you can kind of start to string together your own melodic lines just based off these little 2-note intervals. So that's Carla with the root note C. Let's try another Carla one, root note F. And as you'll hear, they're very similar things. This is just to give you the scope to be able to fit them into your project. I believe it's all one performance as well, so by that I mean that there aren't any dynamic variations, so the model wheel doesn't do anything, and the velocity is, I believe, just volume. It sounds like it's just volume to me, so you're not going to get, a much softer performance or a much louder one. It's kind of all set at this sort of fairly soft range. All right, so that's the Carla. Let's try some Kristen. So again, really lovely stuff. And it's nice having the two separate singers because you could then begin to combine them and create something different as well. So yeah, that's the intervals category. Really helpful one, that one. I think that's going to become good sort of toolkit use. I do get a little bit concerned with melodic phrases sometimes because they're very close just to being a set loop unless you sort of heavily modify them. And I sometimes think if you're going to heavily modify them, it takes them away from what they were kind of intended to be almost. So I think the intervals is a nice kind of hybrid of that. So next up we have rhythmic pedals. This might be a slightly confusing menu to start with, but I'll try and go through it. So pedal menus is sort of the main category. So each one of these has a series of kind of rhythmic motifs on them.
Do, me, fa, sol, do, me, a, na, do, no, te, ta, sakate, sa, do, me, fa, sol, do, me.
So really cool. They're tempo synced as well. And we also have the option down here with the purple key switches again to change the key of them. So that's a few from menu A. Let's try menu C.
Anado, donote, anado, ta, do, ta, sakate, sa, do, me,
So lots of nice variations. So that was the ones based around A and C. Let's try this whisper menu. So I believe these are the same rhythmic patterns, but obviously delivered by a whispered male vocal instead. But really nice to have as an option, and you could even sort of layer them with the bigger ones or morph into them, which could be pretty cool. So as you can see, the top ones are straight time, and these bottom ones are, I believe, the same thing, but just in triplets. So if we jump into the menu based around A.
Do, re, so, fa, do, me. Te, se, setema, te, se, setema. Ah, no, do, ni, ah, la, do, no, te.
So yeah, similar thing, but just in triplet, which is really nice. So that's the full pedal menus, and now the rest of these folders are more sort of breakdowns or variations of. So in single pedals, we have a mono option and a stereo option. These are the same, the only difference is mono and stereo. So if I give you an idea of the straight pedal ones in mono, and these are also broken down by singers, so you got Carla and Kristen.
Anu, doni, ana. Anu, doni, ana.
And they are a single pedal, just locked to a root note, so.
Anu, doni, anu, doni, anu, doni, anu, doni.
So I think these are just a bit nicer for when you've chosen the specific pedal that you want and the performance that you want. And then you can maybe just play along with your chord changes or whatever you've got. So that was the mono. I'll just give you a quick listen to the stereo. Obviously it's the same thing, just in stereo, but they do sound really nice actually.
Anu, doni, ana.
Actually really cool to have the mono and stereo options. I feel like the mono is probably the most, the rawest kind of performance you're going to get from this category. The remix ones are sort of more processed ones.
Anu, doni,
So let's look at a different rhythmic pedal of these. And you could probably start to combine a lot of these rhythmic pedals as well to create some really kind of more intricate rhythmic stuff. Alrighty, so that's the remixed ones, the kind of more processed ones. And the last one is just stacked pedals. So these are sort of inbuilt combinations. Let's try some of the straight ones. So you can hear, you just got multiple parts happening at once. Really cool stuff. Let's try a couple more. And let's just do one of the triplet ones. I really like this category, the rhythmic one. I think they've kind of divided it quite nicely, and I like the options. It kind of gives you, something quite minimal to start with, and then you can go all the way up to the stacked ones. And because there's quite a lot of consistency across the patches, you could start to really kind of layer and combine these in a progression. So yeah, really cool stuff. Let's move on and we'll jump into the Scapes and Drones. So here we've got vocal drones and vocal scapes. So let's start off in drones. These are very similar to what we kind of heard earlier under the melodic phrase ones. Just to note that if you're listening on like a phone or a laptop or something, you might not hear these very well because they are very low, very bassy. Okay, let's take a listen to another one. It sounds like a lot of these are made from the vocal content from the rest of the library and almost just sort of stretched out to give you that kind of everlasting drone sort of reverby thing. Cool, yeah, really nice stuff. The drones menu at the bottom is just all of the drones in one patch, and instead of changing patches, you just use the key switches to swap between them. So that was the drones. Let's have a listen to the scapes. Top one is breathscape. So this is kind of a, yeah, really breathy, almost whispered drone style. Like a whispering wind kind of thing. All right, so these are now the vocal scapes, and these are divided much in the same way as the melodic phrases and all of those patches. So let's try the A major centered one. And we do have the drones down in the bottom octave there. Really beautiful, really lovely stuff. I think these actually kind of could have gone into the melodic phrase category at the top because they are very similar in the way that they work. They're just a sort of really ethereal, stretched out, kind of softer version. But yeah, it almost would have made more sense if these were up in the melodic phrases category as just a sort of softer option of them, because that's, to me, that's what they kind of sound like. Let's try a couple more of these anyway. So let's go for D sharp major one. Yeah, lovely. Really kind of slowly evolving stuff. Let's just try one of the minor ones. We'll do F sharp minor. So you get some kind of really breathy ones. Yeah, it's really nice. It's almost like a Spitfire Evo kind of thing, but just a vocal version of that where it's really kind of like nice and slow and evolving stuff. All right, so that's the vocal scapes. Now we're on to the final category, which is vowels. And we have moving vowels, which are sort of a loop, and single vowels, which are just one shot. So let's jump into the moving vowels. So here you can see they've been divided by singer, but then you also get a little breakdown of what the vowel shapes are. So this one's R-O-R kind of thing. So let's have a listen. So it sort of really softly changes between the vowel shapes, just giving it a little bit of change, which is nice. I believe these are the only ones that aren't tempo synced, which may or may not be a problem depending on what you're doing. So let's have a listen to one of the Kala ones. I do like the way they've done this. Obviously the looped ones, they have this kind of really nice natural expression built into them because there's a really nice transition between the vowel sounds, a really natural one. But it does mean that then they're obviously a bit more static. So we do have the other category to go into in a second, but I'll just show you these stacked versions, which I believe are just stacks made up of the previous patches that we looked at. So you're just getting multiple vowel sounds at once and multiple singers. Yeah, really nice. So those were the looped, but let's take a listen to the single shots. And we'll start with the Kala R's. So as you can hear, these don't loop back around to something else, they're just a single shot. So let's take a listen to some of the ums as well. Lovely stuff. And then we have the stacked versions. So yeah, again, just a more layered version of the previous patches. So you probably could build these out of the single patches there, but it's just really nice as a time saver to have it kind of ready there, and it sounds really sort of pre-mixed almost as well. So I think that should wrap it up for this library. Hopefully I've shown you enough just to get an idea of what's in there. Heavyocity always does great sort of sounding libraries, and this is definitely no exception. It's really nice to have something that's focused on the softer side of the human voice. It's also wrapped up in their Gravity UI, which I actually really like. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot you have at your fingertips, even on this first page here. I haven't really touched too much on the UI just because I've covered it in other videos, and the Gravity engine's been around for quite a while, so if you've got any of their other Gravity-based products, you're going to have seen this all before. But there are a lot of effects mangling options, and also with the motion engine and the sort of motion playback thing, there's lots of opportunity to kind of mangle it and play with the rhythm and timing of stuff as well. I think on the negative side, I maybe would have liked to have seen more sort of playable content versus the loop content. The loop content does sound amazing, but I found that kind of stuff is definitely harder to write with unless your track is sort of based around it. Fitting those phrases to something that you've already written is generally more difficult. And there is also slightly that concern that you're going to end up with a track that maybe uses something very similar to someone else's. A couple of other small things that have been really nice to see is the listing of the original BPMs with the loop content, so you can kind of tell how far you might be able to push it. And I also found myself sort of reaching for the mod wheel occasionally just to see if it was going to do something on some of the patches, but I found that it's generally unmapped. So it would have been maybe quite nice if that had a bit more of a a function, even if it was just a filter or something like that. But yeah, overall, lovely library. I think it's going to be amazing for people that have wanted to use more vocal stuff, but have maybe had some of the more epic options available to them. I really think that vocal sample libraries is probably one of the more untapped areas. You know, considering how much variation we've got in string libraries, percussion libraries, that kind of thing. Personally, I'd love to see more sort of vocal libraries like this that aren't just using the vocal as a lead element, but also kind of as an added color or as a nice kind of rhythmic element to your tracks. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Any questions, just let me know in the comments. If not, I'll see you again on the next one.